Hi, I'm Alian, and I'm once again experimenting with microalgae. So today, I am planning for the next phase of my experiment. So over the course of the past 24 some vlogs, I have been growing algae in my basement. And I've been doing that with the goal of understanding how they're able to absorb different nutrients from wastewater. And during this experiment, I've grown my algae in these structures called photobioreactors. And you can see it here, it's basically a big tank with some lights that were wrapped around it and this air intake tube and along with water inside. And I'm just now finishing up that experiment. I actually just presented at the Ottawa Regional Science Fair a couple weeks ago, and I'm now looking to see what my next experiment's gonna be. I know for a fact that I want to continue experimenting, and that means that I need to preserve my algae. So what I'm gonna be doing today is making a more long-term sustainable algae culture that I'll be able to use for future experiments. Now, what I found over the course of my experiment is that the algae actually grow really well in a bioreactor like the one I built. I was starting by growing my algae in vials, but I realized that those actually don't work that well. It was the bioreactors that grew the algae much faster. So I'm going to continue to grow the algae in one of these bioreactors, but what I first need to do is clean up my bioreactors and then transfer my best algae culture into a new bioreactor. So as you can see in this bioreactor, there are still algae growing in here. And these were the best algae that came out of my experiment. They're the ones that are still growing the best. So I'm going to preserve those ones. I've already, in a previous episode, emptied out the other two bioreactors. This right here is an empty bioreactor. As you can see, it only has a little bit of water left. But as you can also see, it's got this little algae residue left. And what I need to do today is get rid of that so that I can then transfer the algae from this bioreactor into a fresh, clean bioreactor. So my first step is to clean out these old bioreactors. As you can see, there are a bunch of dead algae on the bottom. So I want to get rid of those. I'm going to add in a solution of water and a little bit of dish soap. And I'm hoping that will loosen up the dead algae that are stuck on the bottom. And then I'll be able to scrub them off. So it has now been a couple hours. I left it to soak. And I've scrubbed off all the algae. As you can see, there is no more algae left on the bottom of the bioreactor. And it's fully clean. I'm going to rinse it out a couple times, and then I'm going to be able to add in my algae. So now that this bioreactor is clean, I'm going to be transferring the algae from this bioreactor into this one. And the reason for this is that over the course of the experiment, the algae in this bioreactor have been growing, but also some of them have been dying. And those dead ones have been settling to the bottom of the bioreactor, whereas the living ones are still floating around near the top. So what I'm going to do is transfer just from the top, about the top half of the bioreactor, or the water in it rather, and transfer that into this bioreactor here. And that means that only the living culture will be left in this bioreactor, which is great. So I am going to get started on transferring as much algae as I can from the middle of this bioreactor into this one over here. So I have transferred all the live algae into this bioreactor now, and I need to do a couple other things. First of all, I need to add some more medium chemicals that I've got in bottles like these. They're basically just chemicals that algae need to grow, and I'm going to be adding some into this bioreactor because they've lost a lot of the nutrients in this bioreactor, so I'm going to add some more nutrients so that they can grow well. And the other thing I'm going to do is reattach my LED lights, which you can see here, and I'm going to wrap those around this bioreactor again. I had to take them off to clean it, but now they can be reattached. Alright, so I'm just going to seal up the bioreactor now. And there we go. That is now my functional algae culture that is going to be growing in this bioreactor in preparation for whatever my next experiment is going to be. And speaking of that, I'll be planning for my next experiment over the next couple of weeks. So if you enjoyed this vlog and you want to see more of this and more experimenting, feel free to check out any of the other vlogs on LinkedIn or on YouTube. And subscribe down below, and I will see you in the next one.